Cash rules everything around me. Cream get.
Yeah. Check this old fly shit out. Word up.
Cash
Take
rules
you on a
everything
natural
around
joint.
me. Cream get the money.
Here we
Dollar,
go. Check
dollar bill,
this shit.
y'all.
Yeah. I grew up on the crime side, the New York Times side. Staying alive was no
My man John, Tony Crow, what's poppin' with you, my brothers?
What's good, Sim?
We back on the stoop, man. Yeah. For another episode of OG Talk. This one is Cream. Men versus finances. You know, we just heard that a little snippet of the, Wu-Tang, Cream, Cash Rules Everything Around Me. And you know, when you break down and listen to the song, everything they're talking about is the reason why they had to go find a way to make money. Right? Everything they're talking about in the song. Why they had to go make money. And what they had to do to make money. So the discussion today is, in 2024, what is the pressure of men to bring in finances, to make money, bring it into the home? What do they have to do to bring in money? You know, what does that pressure cause them to do sometimes to make money? You know what I mean? So I'm going to just, swing it around, say what's up, and then we could just get into it. Tony, what's good, man?
What's good, Sim? Glad to be back. Shout out to the chat. John, welcome.
What's good? What's good?
Go.
Yeah. What's good? What's good, John? It's been a minute since I've been yeah.
We share the stage together, right?
Yeah, you know what I mean?
I'm good. I'm doing well, man. Just blessed to be here. Excited to be on. My schedule's pretty hectic, having 4 children. Some of them are young. So,
right.
When I get a chance, I got to take advantage. So.
Yeah, no doubt. So let me start off with just a little story, right? My daughter sees this, she's going to be mad, but she's good.
This is what we doing? We airing it out.
we airing it out. We putting it out there.
That's why you got to get the disclaimer in the beginning.
You know what I'm saying? We putting it out there.
I got to practice.
Yeah, we putting it out there. You know what I mean? She don't know. Anyway, she's pregnant. My daughter's pregnant. All right. The young man who is the father of the baby spent 9 years in prison. Okay. And he lives in Illinois right now. I spent a lot of time talking to him. You know what I mean? A lot of time talking to him. And one of the big things on his mind is, this man just got out of prison. One of the big things on his mind is, I'm not there to support her or the baby, right? They've gone through some things since then, you know what I mean? But at the time that I spoke to him, that was the big thing on his mind. I'm not there to support her. I'm not there to support the baby. And he's speaking financially. He's not even talking about emotional support or that. It's all financial that he's talking about, right? I can't provide this. I can't buy baby clothes. I can't buy a crib. I can't even pay rent. I can't do anything. My advice to him was, don't worry about that right now. You have, at this point in time, like, you have 8 months until the child is born. Your focus really needs to be, how do I get myself together? You just did 9 years in prison. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're putting pressure on yourself to provide finances when you're not even really providing finances for yourself, right? What you need to be doing is getting your head right. You know what I'm saying? Figuring out, you got 9 years of prison. There's trauma there. You got to figure that out. You got to figure out how you're adjusting to the world. The world was different. You went in almost a decade ago. The world has changed significantly. You got to figure that out. There's a lot of things you got to figure out before you can ever even offer yourself up, as an adult. It was hard for him to understand because, as a kid, you're always taught you got to provide that financial support no matter what. You know what I mean? And I think for a lot of men, it provides some pressure. You know what I mean? It provides some pressure. I think and I'm not blaming the pressure because people know how to make their decisions, but it forces people to sometimes do some things maybe they wouldn't have done, right? And that's one of the things I told him. I was like, you're putting so much pressure on yourself that you're gonna fall back. You want to make you want to try to provide so bad financially that you might fall back into your doing something that you don't want to do. Right? You might connect with some people figuring, I'm gonna just do this right now so I can get a couple grand so I can buy a crib or do this or do that. You know what I'm saying? And now you're putting yourself back in a sticky situation. You know what I mean? All because, you're worried about these limited finances and not understanding that, there's other ways you can support her emotionally. You know what I'm saying? Being there, if she's not feeling well, whatever, being there to talk to, but you're putting so much pressure on yourself to provide financially, you might find yourself in trouble. You know what I mean? So that's just where, like, do you feel pressures? Like, how much pressure do you feel just as a man to provide financially? Either one.
Pressure. I mean, I really haven't felt pressure since my daughter was born. Like, that was the pressure when she, you know what I mean? Similar to with the story you just told. When I found out I was about to be a dad, yeah, it was pressure. Luckily, I was already stable in the job. You know what I mean? So it really wasn't financial pressure. It was just pressure of how I'm gonna how, like, I never did this before. You know what I mean? I never raised a child, never been a dad. So I think when I had my child at a older age than most of my friends, so I kind of lucked out in that aspect. So for me, I mean, but I do feel pressure, like, you know what I mean? Sometimes bills is due and the account don't got enough for the bill. So yeah, I feel pressure, every now and again. How do I deal with it? I mean, I sacrifice. I gotta not, you know what I mean? I might have to eat ramen for a week or so. You know what I mean? I might have to cut down on extracurricular activities or something. But luckily I didn't feel those pressures as a young man. You know what I mean? Like, I was a lot older, a lot more mature. So, and I watched a lot of my friends really, really go through it. You know what I mean? Like, so I had to, like, I was there for them most of the time, helping them get a legit job, do things the right way and stay out of trouble. But yeah, so I mean, that's what I got right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll jump in and say, like, I think a lot of the pressures that I felt was mostly early on in my life when so I was coming into adulthood. I always wanted to do things on my own. And so I left mom's crib at 17, so I was sort of like just doing me, wanting to go to college. I went away from New York, went to school in Florida, worked while going to school. So I took on a lot of pressure, but that was by my own doing. It wasn't because of society or, not having the, the backing of my family to help me out. It was just, I was sort of, my mind was a little different growing up. I had a focus that was different from most of my friends or my peers. So, I think the pressures for me were mostly placed by my own self, to try to get out there and just make something good of myself and, get out the hood and make something of myself and then hopefully help out the family. You aspire to be big.
Yeah.
I never got to those aspirations specifically, but I did do well for myself. But then when I returned to New York, it was like, I didn't want to go back to mom's house. I didn't want to go back to the crib. I'm like, nah, I'm out. I'm never going back. So that whole pressure of trying to get a job and not making legitimate money to own your own or to rent, it was that was the struggle, working 7 days a week, working Saturdays. I used to do like party promoting, in the city on the weekend. So that was like extra pay outside of like a regular 9 to 5 and plus a part-time gig. So I was constantly working and figuring out ways to make cash in order to pay, a rent, You know what I mean? Pay my rent and my light bill and all of that. So I didn't have much of I didn't enjoy my youth. You know what I mean? I didn't get a chance to enjoy the young 20s because I started becoming, you know, sort of my own man,
Yeah.
and I didn't have children. So it was all just me.
So, so if I could like piggyback a little bit, I enjoyed my youth like to the fullest. Like I said, my child, I was in my 20s, mid 20s, late 20s when I had my daughter. So by the time she was coming, I had a overnight job. It paid pretty good money. So basically, like one of them sacrifices as an adult was, all right, you had your fun as a kid, as a kid, because overnight shift, no social life. You know what I mean? Like it was really, like you said, 2 jobs. If I could get it, it was really about, all right, let me just see how much money I can make as much money as I can make sure everything is settled at home, and like that was the focus. And to an extent, is like it's continued since then. You know what I mean? It's like since my daughter's being born, my schedule has almost been the same for like 20 plus years. You know what I mean? Like it's all been a routine. So,
Yeah.
But it was a sacrifice because I know I mean I gotta be able to provide.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I felt pressure early. I had my son was born when I was in high school. And so when I graduated, I I went to the Junior College of Albany on a partial scholarship to play ball. It was a Division I junior college, but I didn't finish playing, right? Because my son's mother, she she did jetted out, did some other things, and so it was me that I was raising them, right? Now my grandmother was like, "Oh, I'll take him. You go ahead and play ball and do, what you want to do." But I felt guilty doing that. I couldn't do that. I wanted to have the relationship with my son, so I decided to not play. But instantly though, I knew, all right, what am I gonna do? I got to make money. I got to be able to support him. You know what I mean? And I knew the way that I grew up for most of my teenage years, without having food in the fridge, right? So I definitely didn't want that. So I felt the pressure early to find ways to bring in income, which forced me to do some stuff that when I look back on it, I'm like, it didn't really make sense. Like I was living off of student loans. You know what I'm saying? So like you look like someone like me went the opposite way of, what some other people might have did, right? You know what I'm saying? Some other people might have said, well, I'm gonna just go out here and sling some dope and make some money that way. Right? Me, I used my student loans. I was living off my student loans. I was paying rent. I was doing
That's a
everything off
hustle
my
too.
student loans. You know what I'm saying? Doing everything off my student loans, with a job here, with a job there. Sometimes I would have 2, 3 jobs, and going to school too, and trying to find ways to, bring in as much income as I can. I was fortunate that my grandfather owned a place and he let me rent it for mad cheap, like $300 a month or something like that. So that definitely helped out a lot. So I had that kind of support, but I felt the pressure early, and I think that because of how I grew up, I always had like some kind of hustle in me. You know what I mean? So it's just like I was just always been self-motivated. To figure it out somehow, some way. I figured it out. Just self-motivated. So I just always had it in me, like, all right, I gotta make this how much. This is what my budget. This is how much I gotta pay out every month. I gotta figure out how I'm gonna bring in that kind of money each month. You know what I mean? And then now today, you know what I'm saying, I'm still paying student loans back. You know what I mean? So I'm still paying for it today. So I don't know if that was the best decision, but it was the only decision at that point that I was like, all right, if if I'm going to go to school, it's going to be hard for me to really work a full-time job until I'm graduated. So this is what I have to do. You know what I mean? So I felt that pressure pretty early. And then, you know, that it's kind of stuck with me ever since that, you know, I got to be able to make money. You know what I mean? Everything that I do is not money driven, you know, especially right now because, you know what I mean? I work for myself, you know what I mean? So financially I'm pretty secure. You know, but you know, it's still always there. Like I stack my bread. I don't, you know, I try not to do many things that are frivolous. Or if I know like I want to do this, I want to do that, you know, that's really not going to bring me back any money, you know, I budget for it. You know what I'm saying? So I just like I stack my bread. I'm very cost conscious when I'm out there. Frugal. That's the word. I'm mad frugal. You know what I mean? And people laugh at me all the time. I'm like, but yo, like I've been without, and I don't want to be without again. You know what I'm saying? So I'm definitely frugal. I penny pinch like a mug.
But at least number one, at least you acknowledge it and you know the root of it. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people don't even know. You know what I mean? That could be detriment. Like, or let me ask, can that be detriment in a relationship? You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Let me tell you something.
I'm
Definitely does.
assuming that's a yes.
Yo, it can be because you know me, like I pay attention to so many little things, and I'm like, yeah, it can be. You know what I'm saying? Because you know sometimes, you know, women be like, oh, let's not worry about it. Let's just go have some fun, and I'm like, I ain't gonna have fun if I'm worried about my finances.
That's
You know what I'm
100%.
You know what I mean? Like that's why, like, if I go to a resort or something, it's got to be all inclusive. Like, let me just pay for it all up front. It's done when I get there. All right, if we do a little something extra, it is what it is. But I'm not out paying for dinner every single night and worried about that. You know what I mean?
Budget that part too.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something. I don't know. For me, and when I do like vacations with the wife, it's always I do a all inclusive, and then when I get there, I look for an upgrade.
There you go.
Because I'll bring an extra cash with me, and
Right.
or you know what I mean.
There you
I'll
go.
have a little extra stash, and I'm like, let me look at the room. I'll take a look at the room, and then I'll go back down. I'm like, is there a way to upgrade this to a, you know? And then they usually get lucky if like somebody didn't show up, and I get the upgrade.
Yeah.
And really feel like we doing it right.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So
yeah.
it's a little trick of the trade, you know.
Yeah, hey, I'm taking notes.
Yeah,
And
it works.
I'm planning the trip soon. So
Yeah, man.
Trust me, it definitely works.
Yeah,
It's, you know,
yeah,
that
yeah.
extra 500 that you stash is always going to help you.
Right.
You know what I mean? But yeah, I run into the same situation where I'm super frugal. And I think that's partly because of my upbringing, a little bit about my background. Like my moms and dad didn't graduate high school and they pretty much ran the streets a lot, you know. And my dad was a professional boxer from 76 to 86. But he got caught up in, you know, drug abuse and all of that. So, you know, growing up with him in the household as an addict was very difficult because he was always in and out. So it was always my mom, and she didn't really was able to like keep, you know, a regular job. So it was always a factory job or something like that, or something that she had to do, you know, that, you know, was, you know, sold some drugs, things of that nature and stuff like that. So just living in a household around my immediate family and then cousins, uncles that were around us all kind of lived that life in Brooklyn. So it was, you know, it was like I'm seeing it firsthand, but then I had the protection of everyone to say, you're not going to do this. Like this, they pretty much kept me and my sister away from all of it as much as they could. You know what I mean? So for me, and the option of going out there and selling dope or selling drugs with, you know, colleagues or friends of mine, that was a no-no. It was like,
Right.
no, you're going to go to school, you're going to play sports, and that's what you're going to do. And you're going to be better than us, right? That's all we kept saying. Like, all we heard is like, do better than we did. And it was like, that ain't that difficult. It's just getting out of high school. You know what I mean? So You know what I mean? So it was one of those weird things because
Yeah.
I had no one in front of me who could teach me what to do in the next level. Like they both, they dropped out of high school at 15, you know,
Yeah.
and then my mom's had me when she was 21, and my sister who's older at 19. So they were babies raising babies, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that's what it was for me, you know.
Yeah.
So I had to, like, I seen my mother struggle, and I realized early on that that's not the struggle that I wanted for myself. And part of the reason why I left was because she had very strict rules, and I was like, I can't do me as a young adult. And you know, I'm not bringing no girls to the crib, none of that stuff. I'm not dealing with life in that way. So I'm gonna go and find my way, and that's what ended up happening for me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
frugal is a big part of my life right now because the whole process of me having something and having to keep something in a very limited amount of, you know, pay wages that I was receiving had to be really, really good at monetizing what I was spending on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What up,
Yeah.
Eru? What's going on?
What's good, guys?
Going on,
Sorry to
Ebro?
jump in at the last minute, man.
Nah,
We
it's
got
all
the
good.
programming on the channel, you know, trying to make sure we, you know, give that attention. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Nah, it's all good. It's
Artist,
all good.
hardest working man alive, right there. Eru, there you go.
Salute.
Yeah, but you know, John, I remember I got popped one time for this the same thought that you just expressed. Like, yeah, you know, I didn't graduate high school, so I don't have too much to go to achieve
Yeah.
more. I was with my mother one time. She was, because my mother didn't graduate. She, I think 8th grade or 9th grade or something. She, you know, she dropped out.
Okay.
And we was she would always get these odd jobs and all this stuff. And she was like doing somebody's garden, something like that. She brought me along. And I think I was in the 4th grade, 5th grade, right? And she was saying something, and we was having like a little debate. And I was like, I'm smarter than you because you dropped out of high school. Pop! I never said nothing like that again, boy. Tore me up. Bow. I was like, oh, all right. Maybe that was the wrong thing to say. You know what I'm saying?
That's a fact. Just I never said that when I was a kid. I said that like that was in my mind. I was sort of like,
Yeah.
How old was your son?
I was like, let me see, 4th, 5th grade. I don't know. What's that? 10 years old?
Like
something
11?
like that. 11, 10,
Alright.
11, somewhere around there.
I was gonna like, so you didn't even know you did nothing wrong.
I ain't really know. Like, you know, I mean, but I guess I knew I was wrong by saying I was smarter than her.
Yeah, but
I was.
I
though.
get it.
You might have been unconscious, right?
Listen, as
You might
far
have been
as
unconscious. That's why you can't remember.
right, I mean, as far as schoolwork, I definitely thought I was, because there was a point in time during the same time when she was like taking courses to be an airline stewardess, and she would have me do all. It was at home course. I had to do all the math
Mhm.
for it, you know what I'm saying. So I definitely thought I was.
right.
You know, at least school, you know, schoolwork wise. You know, but I definitely got popped in the mouth for saying it too. You know, yeah. But see, other than that, my mother was actually good with money. Right? She just didn't have it. But when she did have it, she was good at budgeting her money.
Mhm.
You know, and
Same with
using
mine.
it for the right things. She just didn't have the education to make a lot of money. You know what I mean? And then she had her own things going on, you know, same stuff, you know, drug abuse and all kinds of things going on that prevented her from, you know, making enough money, making a good salary, and then, you know, just her own emotional issues would always cause her to something to happen. Like she would build herself up. She, you know, go to school or something. She became a nurse's aide, and then, you know, things just start crashing down. Boom, she lose the job, lose the certification, whatever it is. You know, she always had that kind of an issue. You know, so, you know, just me seeing that, I knew like I had to make sure that my money was right all the time, because it's easy. Like I seen it happen 3 or 4 times with my mother where, you know, boom, we got a phone now, we got a car. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, we have things or things are happening. The next thing you know, 3 months later, we're back struggling again.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So I seen it build up and break down too many times. So that's why I'm always like, I got to be able to budget my money right, be frugal when I have to be frugal, and always take care of my finances. So I always feel that a little bit of pressure to make sure my money is right. You know what I mean? And, it causes me to do, but luckily, the work that I do now, we can get into some of that stuff, like the work we do. The work I do now allows me the freedom to take on many different tasks that could bring me extra money. You know what I'm saying? So that's always a plus. But I've always, just found ways. I mean, I've had times where I was working 3 jobs at once, and going to school, just to make sure that I was taking care of business at home. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's I still, 2024, I still think the pressure is there. It might be lessened a little bit because, women in the workforce, women are making more money. I'm not going to say that, the pay is equal still today, but women are making more money. You have more 2-parent households and things, especially in families of color. You're starting to have more 2-parent households, which eases the load on both people, but I still think the pressure is there. Still think the pressure is there. What you think, Eru?
No, I just kind of just listen. I wrote a couple things down. You mentioned your mom and stuff with the just ups and downs of life. The grind. So we're going to talk about what we do for a living or whatever. I work for the city. For just to even say it even further, I work for MTA, New York City Transit.
Mm-hmm.
So you just get to meet people, man. So like homeless people are not all just crazy people. They're not just all vagabonds or just low lives. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these people are regular people. That I've heard that story before. I've heard that okay, I used to be this. You know what I'm saying? But then like just the pressure of having to maintain that.
Right.
Getting up to go to work every single day, paying this rent to this apartment that they keep turning the hot water off on me and XYZ. You know what I'm saying? I'm grinding to pay all this rent just to live where I'm living at. Just trying to keep up with the lifestyle living on this earth. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Some people gave up. They said they rather just they're still working, but they rather live in the train, live on the train because they could save their money. They have their own money. They can do what they want to do, but they would prefer not to give their money to some, to be a part of the rat race. I've heard that story so many different times,
Yeah.
man. So
Yeah.
you know. But
Yeah.
it's not easy. It's not easy being an adult. Like everybody wants to be one. I used to always tell my sisters that, man. Like, cause they were, young people always anxious to show you that they want to be an adult. I could do this, I could do that. But I always used to tell my sister to just pace yourself, be a kid first, be your age first, experience stuff. Because when you become an adult, now you have the pressures of maintaining that rat race, and it's not fun. And my
Yeah.
sister now, she's just turned 29, and we talk about that all the time, man, because now she's 29 and now she has to have the grind of paying the rent and saving money, paying loans and all this other stuff. Some people just be like, you know what, and they delete themselves from it,
Mm-hmm.
or they might find substance abuse or whatever. You know what I'm saying? This life is not easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll share with the group that so you're speaking something that's really close to home or hits really close to home because my dad, because of his substance abuse, he did about a 6-year bid. And then when he came out, he pretty much had nowhere to go. And him and my mom were divorced. They weren't in good terms. And so he took back to the streets. And like when he got out, I didn't speak to him for quite some time. It was about 2 years or so. And I was busy doing my life, going to work, coming back, doing what I do. And I ran into him. He was sleeping in the trains. He
Mm.
basically was homeless, sleeping in the trains. And it's like, just run right into him. And I'm like, yo, and just a different, like something that I seen, but not to that degree. You know what I mean? Like completely different body form. I've always seen him because he was a professional boxer in the greatest shape. He was just like half of what he used to be. And so, I pretty much, sat with him. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I had worked the night shift and I came out and just run into him on the train and just cried and talked to him and was like, you got to get out of this. And I had my own apartment, so I was like, you got to stay with me. Ended up, staying with me for a couple of months. He relapsed, back and forth, messing up his probation and all of that stuff. So it took me about almost 2 years to get him to really believe in going into a rehab and all of that. And it wasn't until my niece was born from my oldest sister, I only have one sister, she's older, that he ended up changing his life completely around, where he was like, he devoted himself to not revert back, even though in his mind, he's like, if you're an addict, you're always an addict. You will never not be an addict. And there's an everyday fight for him. So, but he's, had some moments of relapse, but he's never gotten to the point of homelessness again, which is great. And it's a testament of what he truly believed was like, I want to be available to see my grandchildren. And that was the start of it. To the point of to now, he's like, has his own place, has his disability, Social Security. He's pretty much set, And it was literally 6 months ago where he finally got his own apartment. And he's living and he's chilling. And it's like, it's been years. My niece now is, she just turned 21. So it's been 21 years of that struggle in order for him to finally have his own.
Yeah.
And, anything is possible, but it's such a difficult transition when you are fighting substance abuse and not being able to really account for your decision making, being on top of your own, anything that you may be bringing in or may be able to, secure for yourself, when you don't have the right tools. And I think that's the biggest thing is like, we aren't taught these things. We sort of learn as we go.
Right.
And, hopefully you have some people around you who can lend you some jewels and give you some advice that you could take heed to, so then you could better yourself in your position, in your situation. And that's what I've done for myself. I've been able to surround myself with really good people who've given me great advice.
Yeah. That's the way you got to do it, especially if you don't get it, if you don't get it when you're young.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because, my dad, he never was, he always had a job, and kind of bounced around, just never had a career, but always had a job. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then, he was able to buy a house, got remarried, but, just it kind of left my mom out there, struggling, so it definitely put a lot of pressure on her, because even I can remember when they split up. Now she was chasing him around for child support, wasn't getting no money for child support. He didn't have no money to give her to, help support, she was obviously, getting, money from welfare and stuff like that. But, it put now the pressure transferred to her to be the provider for everything. You know what I mean? And then, he went on and, he's doing good, for the most part. But now, she and me and my younger brother, kind of, out there moving with the wind. You know what I'm saying? Whichever way it blows next, that's where we got to go. You know what I mean? Which, just, transferred a lot of that pressure over to her. And I can imagine, with your dad, it probably transferred a lot of pressure onto your mom.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because, my mother she was doing anything. Sometimes she was selling weed. Her and her sisters were doing some other stuff. I don't even want to get into that. You know what I mean? To bring in money. You know what I mean? So to make sure, that we had, as much as we could until her, her addiction stuff started to take over, and then, all of that stuff went out went out the window. You know what I mean? But even still, as me coming up, you know, my mom didn't really have an education. So the only thing she could teach me was by just showing like, okay, you know, you got to find a way to do something. You got to hustle your way through. You know what I'm saying? And with my dad, you know, he wasn't there to give me many jewels at all about how to manage my finances or, you know, what to do. So when it came time for college, neither one of them could tell me, this is how you apply. Don't take out student loans. Don't do this. Don't do that. They had no clue. So I'm left there by myself trying to figure this whole thing out. So I'm 18 years old, sitting in some meeting where they talk about promissory notes and this and that, and I have no idea. I'm just signing my name on the paper and give me my check. You know what I'm saying? And I have no clue what's going on. You know what I mean? And you know, the most that my dad could say is, watch out for those student loans. You know what I'm saying? That's the most that he could really tell me. He did go to college, but I don't think he had to pay any student loans. I think he probably had, you know, whatever kind of grants that could, you know, he went, I think he did like a year in community college or something like that. But other than that, I had no guidance whatsoever when it came to going to college and how to manage my finances in college, what to look out for, nothing. You know, it was just, I just had to figure out how to do it. You know what I mean? Now, luckily, because I went through the grind, I was able to help my son and my daughter. Neither one of them have student loans right now. All right. So I was able to help them understand what not to do when they went to college, ways that they can not have to deal with student loans or very little student loans. But like I said, neither one of them have student loans. And now that I'm older and I'm making money, I could put money away for my grandkids so that hopefully they don't have to deal with student loans, you know, at that point. And they can have, you know, either they can use the money to start a business, whatever it is, you know what I mean? But, you know, I guess that's how, you know, I can help my family to progress, right? You know, I didn't have, because I had student loans and I had my kids at a young age, my finances weren't great at that time, so I couldn't really give them money for college. I could only help them with advice. But I have money now where I can help my grandkids so that my kids don't have to give them money. I'm putting money aside for them. You know what I'm saying? And maybe hopefully they can do the same thing for their grandkids, and it can just, the cycle can continue. You know, and then sometime in the future, you know, hopefully, you know, my family is in a much better situation financially. My grandparents, though, did a good job of managing their finances. My grandfather owns, well, he's passed away, but my grandmother owns a house that she's been in for 60 plus years. The house next door, my grandfather, you know, years ago when the people in that house passed away, he bought that house. He owns, well, my grandmother now owns some other land, right? So, you know, they were able to build that, but I don't think that they were able to teach it. I think they kind of knew what they had to do, but I don't think they were able to teach it and pass it down.
That was going to be my question to you. Why do you think that is? Why do you think even like why do you think even if they couldn't teach it like to your mom, that's your mom's parents or your
No,
dad?
my father's parents.
I mean, so obviously he took a little bit. He took a little bit from them. Why do you think there was a gap though between even with you? You know what I mean? You kind of had to figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So why do you think that gap was there?
I think that with my grandfather, it was all, I just got to make money.
The grind. You're an adult. You're grinding. You know. So
yeah. So I don't think there was even a thought. And you know, it's an older school of thinking back then too. So I don't think he even thought about, let me teach my son, like let me really just sit down and teach him how to handle his money. You know what I mean? I don't think that thought was there. You You know what I'm saying? But my grandfather would always give some like little tidbits here and there. He always told me, he was like, don't take out a credit card. He said, take your money, put $1,000 in the bank and use that as your credit card and pay yourself back with interest. You know what I'm saying? Like he would tell me things like that. He'd be like, don't ever loan a friend money. If you don't have it, don't give it to him. If you don't have it, don't give it to him. If you're gonna loan him money, don't loan it. Just give it to him, right? That way, you're never expecting anything back. You don't ruin a friendship. He would always, he would have little tidbits like that.
How much of that did you apply? Because
A lot.
I was asking because like even with my mom, and I'm not gonna get in depth. I ain't gonna front. I'm quiet. I'm saving a lot for whenever we do Dear Mama. You know what I mean? But I got my work ethic from my mom. So she always had a job, always had a good job. Like she went to school, she finished school, she got secondary degrees. So, but she didn't like. I got a lot of little tidbits. You know what I mean? A lot of little one-liners from her, but she never really sat down and taught me. You know what I mean? The financial literacy of things, or you know what I mean? Like same thing, don't get a credit card, watch those credit cards, student loans things. And so I know part of it I ignored because I remember her telling me all this stuff, and I had to learn from myself. But it's just other things that I'm like, even I mean, I gotta have the conversation with my mom, but I'm like, man, why you didn't teach me this part? You know what I mean? Why you taught me always have a job. I always had a job, keep a job. I keep jobs for, you know what I mean? Probably longer than I should. But I've never been out of work more than probably 6 months. That was the longest I've ever been out of work in my life. But it's just other parts that I'm like, why? Where's that barrier that we can't, or we didn't get it translated to us? Like, because that's what I'm working on with my daughter. I'm trying to not just teach her the tip, tell her the tidbits, but teach her, you know what I mean, everything. Show her my mistakes, you know what I mean. Show her where I went wrong. Show her if I would have bought this house this year, where, you know what I mean, what it would be worth now, and things of that nature. But I don't know. I just feel like our parents' generation kind of missed the step in teaching us some of these things. Even if they knew it, even if they learned it, you know what I mean. Some people didn't know it, and you can't get mad at that. But you know what I mean. Like I think my mom knew a lot of this stuff. It sounds like your dad knew some of this stuff. Your grandparents definitely knew some of this stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
but it kind of just skips.
I think I think it's understanding that it has to be taught, because sometimes they might be like, oh, they're gonna learn it, they're gonna figure it out, instead of like, let me
I ain't
show
gonna
you,
lie, my mom was big on that too.
let me show you how it's done. So it didn't, I mean, I think it got passed down a little bit, just from seeing, but I don't think, just the whole, the lessons on saving and the lessons on interest and those type of things. And maybe they didn't even really understand it fully themselves as far as interest and all that. So how do you, I just know I work hard to pay my mortgage. I might not even know what the interest rate is. I just know I got to work hard, so I got enough money to pay it. So how do you teach that if you don't know it,
That's a great point. That's a great point.
And that's what I was saying too. Like if you don't have nothing and you're working hard on it and you're actively doing it right now, you can't really teach because you don't even know what's happening.
Yeah.
Like, as you're doing it, you might come in through like roadblocks and stuff like that. Well, I didn't know about that, but you didn't know about it, but now you got to deal with it. So you can't really teach because you're too busy grinding. Like right now, I'm working an incredible amount of hours right now. You know what I'm saying? So if there was something that I would teach my kids right now about, say like my oldest son about saving and this, that, and the other, I can't really get too in depth in it because I'm at work. Saying when do I get a chance to even have the conversation with them? So now years later, let's say I might end up acquiring properties or whatever else I might be doing, through my grind. You know what I'm saying? How did I get there? How, I can't even teach them because nobody I know has ever done it before. So I'm kind of just doing it. So after the fact, I'll be able to teach his kids maybe. Just like some Sim,
Okay.
which is great. Sim is able to put money away for the grandkids. So the grandkids will be the ones to really get the benefit because they'll have Sim after he done did it, and then also the parents, being the guidance too to help that generation. So I think
And
that's
the
that.
head, no, I was gonna say, and the head start with whatever, like you said, if they want to start the business, they want to go to school, like they got that head start financially.
Right. But they also have the option now too, because now you done laid the groundwork for them to have options. A lot of us don't have the options because we're basically, 400 years behind the eight ball. You know what I'm saying? Other cultures they've already had generations that already figured that out and lost money or whatever, but they have the examples of how to get to where they, to how to do certain things.
Right.
'Cause they wrote the book on those things, but we're still trying to figure it out at this point.
And that's
Yeah,
true.
learning.
That's big. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, learning on the job is the hardest thing to do. To like be able to live it and experience
Teach.
it, and also hand that off. You know what I mean? It's the hardest thing to do because you want to be able to perfect whatever it is that you're doing in order for you to hand the training out off in the right direction. Like
Right.
you don't want to hand off partial training because then those drops in that conversation will cause someone the burden of not knowing
Yeah.
what is the follow up to
Right.
whatever damages are happening,
Right.
whatever is occurring that isn't right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to throw something at you guys. You guys familiar with Prodigy the rapper, right?
Mm-hmm.
His story, how he ended up in the living the how he was living was because there was that picture where Jay-Z had him in the dance academy when he was a kid and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
his grandmother actually owned one of the biggest dance companies in New York
Studios.
City. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Basically in Queens, it's pretty famous. You know what I'm saying? I think my sister went to the freaking school. You know what I'm saying? But the grandmother always, told the daughter and told him that that's not your money. This is my money. You know what I'm saying? So you get out there and go get yours.
Right.
But in the meantime, now she's in the projects and now that she's living away. Meanwhile, her mom is a freaking millionaire. You know what I'm saying? So I think a lot of us, that happens to a lot of us. You know what I'm saying? Like say like the parents might have stuff, they whatever, but they holding on to this stuff. You're their offspring, and they don't even want to share with you,
Yeah.
or
Right.
this is my stuff. You need to go get yours. Like get out. My mom
Right.
used to tell me to get out all the time. I used to be like, like me, like where am I gonna go? So that if you're sitting outside and like you're a good kid, I was a good kid. I wasn't in the streets or nothing like that. But she used to tell me to get out. So I used to be out, and I'm sitting out there like, okay, for real. If this was really for real, because my mom, the door would be open and I can go back in, right? She'll keep the door unlocked. That's what she did to me. But I guess that's what happened to her, or whatever. So whatever. But the point I'm trying to make is that once you're out there and you tell a human being to get out, now they're in the street. Now what have you done to them?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You didn't teach him anything because you know what life is. Why would you tell your son to get out and now he's standing outside in the street? You know what's out there. Why would you put your kids in that position? Say like 18, you better get out of my house. You better get a job or something. You ain't gonna be in my house. That is a crazy scenario that I think a lot of people can relate to. That their
Mm-hmm.
parents told them that. To me. Like I always make that point that I would never do that to my kids. You know what I'm saying? You have to you have a responsibility to your kids to at least give them something, to survive in this world. You know what's out there. Why would you put your kids out there?
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Knowing that what's out there waiting for them, and you
Right.
purposely threw them out there, just because.
Yeah. And that something doesn't even have to be money. It could be wisdom.
Right.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? It could be wisdom, or it could be support. Support for, whatever it is that they're trying to do. And that support can be, I'm just gonna drive you to wherever you're going. You know what I'm saying? Or
Right.
or whatever it is. But yeah, giving them some kind of support is, and is key. Because if you just throw them out there like that, that's when they say, well, all right, I got to make money. I really don't have any skills. What can I do? And the easiest thing to do is something that is illegal because you got the skills to do certain things. You got the skills to break a window.
Yeah, man.
you know, and do certain things like that. So you pick up what's easiest to you at that point in time, and then
Right.
you know,
You muted on
So-
Totally muted.
No, I've heard that said so many times. Like, go out, get out. Especially to a son, and it's always
I ain't
been.
gonna front. I tell my son that all the time. 14 years old.
Well,
I'm like, at 18, you better figure it out.
I was gonna
No lie.
I was gonna say I could with a son I could see myself saying it too, in a sense, but I don't know. I think sometimes you want your kid. It depends. Like it's two sides of it. Because sometimes you want your kid, you don't want them to be sheltered. You don't want the first time for them to be outside, them experience outside. You know what I mean?
Outside,
So you
right.
got, you know what I mean? So especially like for me, I was a single only child. You know what I mean? So my mom would want me outside in a sheltered, you know what I mean, in a sheltered environment, you know what I mean, with certain people. But she definitely wanted me outside, you know what I mean? But I was gonna say I hear that more from women telling their son, you know what I mean, than men telling their son or even men or women telling their daughter, like, all right, 18, you gotta get out. You know what I mean? You ain't gonna be, you gotta have a job or something. You know what I mean? Like if you don't got a job, you're gonna pay a portion of this bill, whatever, or you gotta go. You know what I mean?
yeah, it's
I don't know. It's crazy.
it's a little tougher
I
with the
don't-
daughters, especially with the men. At least for me, it's a little bit tougher. You know,
Yeah.
you know. But even with my son though, when he got, you know, of age, I was just like, listen, you can stay here, but you got to be working or going to school. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to be something. I got to see that you're doing something. If not, then you're gonna have to go figure it out. But if you, as long as you're doing something, I got you. You know what I mean? And when he started doing crazy stuff, then I started like, okay, well, you know, oh, wait a minute, I'm paying your phone bill and you're paying your girlfriend's phone bill. Nah, that's not happening. So now you paying your own phone bill. You know what I'm
You
saying?
played yourself. You played yourself.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Wait,
So-
how'd you find out? How'd you find out?
He like brought it up in a conversation.
He didn't know it was a problem.
Exactly. He brought that joint up in a conversation.
You
You know
gotta
what I
keep
mean?
that low,
I
bro.
was like, nah,
Yeah.
you gotta be bugging. And then you know, and then it got to a point he was, you know, complaining about, because I would still be like, listen, at such and such time the door is locking.
Facts.
You know what I
Word up.
mean? Do the room. Because, you know, he wasn't paying no rent and nothing. And, you know, he was, oh, I don't think I should have to do that. I was like, okay. Then you gotta pay me rent. So now you gotta pay me $200 a month for rent. And you still gotta pay your own phone bill. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I started doing things like that to kind of help him prepare to be ready for his own,
Yeah,
you know, to
outside.
get his own spot and this and that. And then he thought he had a better solution. He was like, nah, I ain't, I'm out. I'm like, okay.
Mhm.
That's up to you. I didn't kick you out.
Right.
You know, you deciding to leave. So don't, you know, remember that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. When I say that, I don't say it in a sense of like I'm kicking you out 100%. It's more about how Sim structured it. But it usually comes in the context of my son poking his chest out at 14, and I'm like, oh, word,
Mm-hmm.
this is what you're doing? Okay, all right, I got you. So when you're 18, you think you could spark up this sort of conversation or speak out of line, you could find yourself out of here at 18 if that's how it's gonna be.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'm sort of giving him that message early so he understands that there's a thin line between how you speak to a parent or how you approach a parent in certain circumstances.
Right.
And I gotta make sure, because I even ran through that at 16, you know what I mean? Like I said, my pops was, you know, he was an addict, you know, he suffered through sort of substance abuse for a lot of his young adulthood. I think he started when he was a teenager. So for me, it was always, the household was always broken. And then, you know, there was violence in the house, right? And so I seen a lot of my mother getting beat and having to struggle through that. And at 16 was like the last straw. It's like you see it, Now I come to her defense, and now we go into blows. You know what I mean? It's like that sort of disrespect in the household breaks everything apart, right? And so I don't want to have to see that in my household. So I'm sort of already giving them a tidbit, like, I'm not that guy. Don't test those waters,
Right.
So it's always that constant communication, that I try to have with them. And then after that friction, I usually have a sidebar with him when things are a lot calmer. And I explain to him and try to break it down to him, like, look, this is why I act the way I act, or this is why I approach things the way I do, because I myself don't have the training or didn't have the training growing up. Like, I'm learning with him. He's my first child.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make mistakes. And so is he.
Yeah.
You speak. It's probably easy with a son, but you speak to your child about your trauma.
I do more now. We started opening up. Like, I've shared with my son a couple of my childhood trauma, and he don't quite understand it because he doesn't see his grandparents that way.
Yeah.
He sees them in a different light now, right? Because he doesn't, they could do no harm, right? But he doesn't experience what I've experienced. So
Right.
I try to share with him as much as I can without making the grandparents look so poor.
Yeah, exactly.
That's scary.
That's a tough part because, with my mom, she has a great relationship with my kids. And it's the same thing. Like, when I'm explaining things, I have to always say, because she's doing well now. Like, always kind of preface it like, look, she found a way. She's, she progressed and she's still learning, and she's changed and things like that. But this is what happened back then. This is what it was like. You know what I mean? And so, this is what I had to go through, and, my brother and everything to get to where we are. But, so that because, they see her as grandma. Graham. You know what I mean? That, that's the way that they see her, without knowing all that other stuff. You know what I mean? They see a totally different person than I seen growing up, my brother seen growing up. And it's even like that with my father.
And Sim, I don't know if you experienced this, or you, Iru, you guys have older boys. For me, it's like everything I do is corny now, right? Like, I'm no longer that guy. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, everything that you value most is coming from your friends. And I get that. Totally understand that. But, there are moments in time where I see you go astray. I got to pull you back in, right? And so only way I know is through violence, and I don't want to be violent.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't, you know what I mean? So I try to be that calm, collective individual that I want to perceive to be, but I know I can't hold it in all the time.
Right.
So that's the biggest struggle that I face right now. And my wife also does a good job of, like, keeping things calm. It's like, hey, you're doing too much. Let's calm it down. You know what I mean? And so it's like, all right, cool. But it's a fine balance. It's a fine line between, like, how do I approach you when everything, like, it's a snicker. It's like or like little things like that I just like, yo, like, you don't understand. Like, I just want to choke you. It's like, you know what I mean? So I don't know what is the right approach. So I'm dealing with it now, and I'm like, all right, cool. I'm working through it.
It's tough. It is tough. My son didn't, like, do those, like, snicker or do things like that. I jacked him up really early, though, on in life. So, you know what I mean?
So I just have a hard-headed kid. That's what you say?
I don't know. I mean,
how old is he?
My son's 14.
Yeah.
But he's already dealt with like all of it. So, you know what I mean? And I don't know if a part of it is, I look back now and I think, like, maybe because he's almost like, I don't want to deal with you in that way no more. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe I put too much pressure on him.
I mean,
to a degree, and so maybe I got to back off. I don't know.
I mean, my son was not. He just wasn't like he wasn't confrontational, but he still was gonna do what he wanted to do. You know what I mean? He was just gonna try to be slick about it, and do it. You know what I mean? But he just wasn't really confrontational. You know, I had to bring the confrontation to him, you know, about certain things. You know what I'm saying? You know, and during those moments, you know, it was one time, and this wasn't until he was like in his 20s where he, you know, decided he was gonna argue back. You know what I mean? And we got into an argument. But you know, he's never really been confrontational. You know, obviously, you know, they would think, you know, at a certain point he's like, man, Dad don't know what he's talking about. He, you know, and so he's doing his own thing. But to his credit, you know, in areas where I gave him some advice, told him you might not want to do this, you might not want to do that, and he did it anyway, and it fell through for him. You know, he come back and was like, man, I should have listened. You know what I'm saying? And you know, because of those times, you know, I mean, he's 30 years old now. You know what I mean? And you know, he just you know, he feels comfortable in coming to me for advice and talking about anything that happens and stuff like that. You know, but of course now I could talk to him differently.
Right.
You know, more as a peer now. You know.
And you guys are wearing similar shoes now, so you guys can compare notes and stuff,
Yeah.
and
Right.
confide in you. Can I throw something at you guys? You remember you guys seen the movie He Got Game?
Hmm.
You know, the big climax of the movie, what the whole point of the movie is when he had the big fight with his son, you know, in the apartment, you know, and then the mom kind of interfered, whatever. And that up until that point, you know, the argument that they were having, it felt so real to me because like I'm quite sure, you know, John, you know, and Sim, you know, with your son, you experienced those matches where you're a man. So you're talking to him like a man, and you're having a man conversation. You know, so you might be saying stuff that might be a little bit off the wall. You know what I'm saying? But the message that you're trying to convey to your kid, you're trying to save your child. You know what I'm saying? So the tragic thing about that scene is that the mother, all she was doing was, hey, you know, you're being too hard on him. So then through that reaction, he just kind of turned around and bumped her. She hit her head and she dies. You know what I'm saying? I went through something similar, you know, with my son's older brother. You know, big argument, you know, and I'm kind of going on, I'm on 1,000, but there's a lesson that needed to be learned there. But then the lesson turns into a one-on-one bout between me and his mom. You know what I'm saying? And it could have ended up that way because it ended up with me like you know, restraining her or like, you know, or basically taking her out, you know, you know what I'm saying? Like Batman had to take her out, you know what I'm saying? So, but you know, the point I'm trying to make is that like, you know, nothing could, like women, if women could listen to this, man, stay out of, those conversations, man. Like, whatever the guy needs to do to get the point across to his son, you need to let it play out. You know, if there's no violence, if there's no, risk of you know, the kid getting hurt or something like that, then you need to let it play out.
Right.
Afterwards, you know, like John said, you get a sidebar later. The reason why I came at you like this is because XYZ, man. You know what I'm saying? Now you can build with the kid. But a lot of times those tense moments need to be that way. In order to so the kid could feel the intensity of it, because that moment could happen in the street somewhere, you know, and then he's like all alone there, you know what I'm saying? So these teacher moments need to happen when it happens, and it needs to go down the way that it needs to go down. Because, you know, like John said, you know, like, I'm not sure if he's doing it the right way. Nobody does. You know, so
Right.
don't be too hard on yourself, man. I try not to do that to myself, because like we come from, you know, places, whatever, we have our experiences and stuff. Our parents didn't really give us the proper, you know, we didn't have the proper outlets growing up, man. So, you know, just dealing with stuff like that, you just deal with the best way you can, because you're literally trying to save your kid. Because, you know,
Right.
we're behind the 8 ball, man. You know, we trying to get our kids to the point where hopefully we can save our grandchildren. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like Sim is doing, you know.
Right. Right. Yeah, and you know, and those moments can definitely be tense. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you have a young man who thinks or feels like, all right, I'm at this point now where, you know, I feel like I can, you know, I feel like I'm a man too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I feel like I'm a man too. So, you know, I'm challenging now. You know what
Oh
I'm saying?
yeah,
I'm challenging now.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like,
Tell you, but and my son is already almost my height. So by summertime, he's already here or above me.
you know,
So it's like it's one of those things. I'm like, bro,
you know, and parents like with my dad, he said the wrong thing to me one time that, and I was like, okay, you know, he was, you know, basically I told him at the end of the school year, I think I said, maybe I said this last week, at the end of the school year, I'm going to live with my mother. And he was like, if you're going to go, you might as well go now. All right. And I know, you know, in his mind, he probably thought I was going to be like, you know, have a different response. But I'm like, all right, that's okay, cool, bam, I'm out. And I left that day. You know what I'm saying? And you know, that's the struggles, you know, with, you know, especially with, I think women, like mother and daughters, have a different struggle. They struggle and they butt heads, but a different struggle than, you know, a man and his son.
Yeah. Men and their daughters have a different struggle too.
No
I'm
doubt
sure.
about it.
But we'll save that for the daughters episode.
Oh, that daughter's episode. I might have to tell my daughter to watch that one. She definitely put me through the ringer.
My daughter's 11, so everything is great right now. I know it ain't. I got time, but it's coming. I know.
It's coming. It's coming.
If you lucky,
I'm trying to tell you
man.
right
If you
now,
lucky.
it's coming.
Man, I feel like
I know
girls are
it's
more
coming.
shocking, man. Girls are more shocking, I think, because one day they're a little girl, whatever. Next minute they're like, "Why do you have those shorts on? You know, take those shorts off, man." You know, like,
100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
why do you smell like that? What the hell? You know?
Yeah. Girls is different. It is scared it is scared the hell out of you too. But oh my God. Yeah, girls is different. Girls is different. You know what I mean? But yeah, great talk, guys, for real.
Yeah.
Great topic. I mean, you know, I think this is, you know, men versus finances. It's going to be for all time. This topic is going to be there, right? It's always going to be, you know, just a question. You know, how do men, you know, still today, most men, you know, in most two-parent families, the man is the man is the breadwinner, right? And you know, there's a certain amount of pressure that comes with that. And then, you know, as coming up, you know, having in the back of your mind that you have to be the breadwinner, feeling like you have to be the breadwinner, feeling like you got to bring in a certain amount of money to take care of the household. There's a certain pressure that comes with that too. And then just all the other societal pressure of the materialistic things that you see people, you know, you want to get this, you want to get that. Everybody got this, everybody got that. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's you know, it's something to have to deal with.
I'll say this: anyone who's watching, you know, if your significant other, girlfriend or spouse, whoever you're living with, make more than you, that's a good thing. Don't look at that as a deterrent.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, just, you know, do your part. You know what I mean? Place your part, show what your worth is, and that's it. You do your part. You don't have to always think about, now I have to apply additional pressure just to make more money than my spouse. Like that should never be on your mind.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Hopefully the significant other is not putting the pressure on you.
Well, that's depending on the significant other, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely something that's out there that happens. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, I don't
There was
know
a big, there was a big argument at my job. Somebody mentioned this. Oh, well, how do you feel about if your man was making less than you? And then the girl says something like, "Nah, you know, like some women are just like that. Nah, he needs to be making double what I make." So it's like we make it. So let's say we, you know, just something low. We make 25,000 a year. So like your husband got to make $50,000 a year. It's like, damn, son, you put that much pressure onto him. So then what? Then they were talking about splitting bills and oh no, he got to pay the rent. He got to do this. You know, I'm gonna buy the food. Like, you know, like some people have a warped sense of reality. You know what I'm saying? Of the way things should go. You know.
Right.
So, I mean,
everybody wants the 1%.
Yeah, it's still like that. You know, a bit of traditional household mixed with what's current. You know what I'm saying? Right. That, you know, the man has to make more money. I I mean, I agree. You don't. You know what I'm saying? If
Not
it's
these days.
not today. You know what I mean? If it's a true partnership, then you got to figure out, okay, which role do we have?
Right.
Right.
You know, and taking care of the home. You know what I mean? Which role do we have? But you know, there are still some women out there that's like, nah, he gotta come to the table with something. I'm not being taking care of no man and da 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 da. And it's like,
Yeah, they're not gonna spend
right.
their money. They want to spend the man's money. You know what I'm saying?
You know what I mean?
Yep. My own. We got a joint account, and she got her own account.
You know. Now,
That's another.
You
right.
should always have two accounts. You should have a
Well,
joint
and
and
you should have a
separate,
joint in
you know
your
what I
own.
mean?
Listen. I learned the hard way.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you guys that too. You know, since we're talking about finances, what advice would you give? Because I mean, a lot of us are gonna say that you got to have a different account. You got to have separate accounts and stuff like that to put stuff away. So, like as a single man or whatever, and with the intentions of building a family and stuff like that, what advice would you give like to like a young man out there?
Well, that would be number one for me because I learned, like I said, I learned the hard way. So if you're gonna do a joint account, make sure you have your separate personal account as well. You know what I mean?
Before the female, before you get in the relationship,
Oh.
what do you need to? What advice would you give before they get into that situation?
Well, number one, if possible, get yourself as financially stable
That's
as
it.
possible, and you running your own well-oiled machine before you add someone to it. You know what I mean? I mean that would probably be the best advice. You know what I mean?
What does that mean to you though? Get that well-oiled machine. What does that mean to you?
Be more than content with where you are in life. You know what I mean? Before you start trying to add a person to your life.
Yeah.
And I'm not even talking about a kid because that part it goes even deeper. You know what I mean? But you know what I mean? A lot of times people need therapy. You know what I mean? They need to deal with their own traumas. They need to, you know what I mean? There's things that they haven't figured out about themselves yet. And they're trying to start a relationship. You know what I mean? You gotta figure yourself out first before you even. I'm not saying be celibate. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, but before you start trying to start a family, learn. You know what I mean? Learn everything you can about yourself, family history. You know what I mean? Medical history, like all that kind of stuff. And you got when you find somebody, you gotta try to find that stuff. Make sure they know that stuff about themselves. You know what I mean? Because people starting families and don't know themselves. She don't know herself.
Right.
And yes,
No.
not a good start.
Yeah, you end up like me standing at a payphone like, yo, FNB, please deposit 10 cents. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to be caught in that situation like that, man. So that's what I'm saying.
real.
Like, yeah. So Sim, what do you think about that topic? What would you?
Think. I mean, I'm the same way. You know, get your money right. You know what I'm saying? You know, be kind of secure if you can. You know, be secure, and I don't think that means you got to be like wealthy and rich and all of that kind of stuff. But like, you know, like Tony said, you know, you got your finances pretty much in order. You know, you understand where your money is coming from. You know where it's going. You know, you got your plan on how you're going to save money.
The plan part,
right? You know, and then, you know, when you're actually getting into that relationship, you had that conversation about the money. Like, okay, what's your plan? You know, how are you with money? You know, and how we gonna bring this together and make it work? I think most people don't come together like love takes over and they forget about all plans. It's just like I'm infatuated. It don't matter. Boom. Love is gonna make it work.
Yep.
And love don't make it work.
Bills.
You know what I'm saying? So you forget all about, and that's what happens when you're young, though, right? That's what happens when you're young. You know what I mean? And so you don't think about any of that. It's just like, well, we love each other, so no matter what happens, we got each other's back. You know, and then 10 years later, it's like, well, damn, you said you was gonna be had this kind of job. You ain't get that yet. You know what I'm saying? And you said you was gonna be doing this, and you ain't do that yet. And you know, and people forget all about like the building part together. Like actually, I think when most people I know this ain't a couples thing, but when most people get together, they kind of like they just go at it and wing it. You know, because they love each other and this and that, and don't really look at their partnership almost as a business. Like, hey, we really got to have a plan and figure out what we're going to do together, how we're going to manage these things. You know what I'm saying? And they just kind of go at it and wing it. You know,
I think
And
that's key, man.
Met them marry messed it up for all of us, right?
Sweet morning, dude.
you know what I'm saying, right?
Hey, yeah. All I need is that's it to get by.
Exactly. But you know, if you got a plan and you make sure she got a plan and understand, and then you know try to make those things work together. But definitely, you know, still have a joint account, have your own account,
and have a backup plan.
Yeah, have a backup plan.
Because I know a young lady who was being financially taken care of, you know what I mean, in her current relationship, and everything was great, you know what I mean. But then the gentleman decided he didn't want to be in a relationship, and she, you know what I mean, she had to get up and figure out what she was going to do. And after all these years of, you know, not having to work and not having to provide for herself, it was a difficult transition.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's funny because he was the one that he didn't want her to work. You know what I mean? I want to take care of you, pay for everything. You know what I mean? And that wasn't who she was initially.
Right.
Now she had to double back.
Yeah.
From our perspective too, man, I've been in situations where I come to the house and the key ain't working. You know what I'm saying? Like, what the hell? Key's not working. You know, I'm calling whatever. I got the locks changed on me, fam. So you know, I can't get in that place that I was living in before. And that I'm actually paying bills and stuff like that. So what do you do in those situations? So you know, what Sim was saying, Sim said business, man. You know, like a relationship, you got to look at it as a business. But before you'd make a joint business, you got to create your own business. Like Tony's saying, you got to have a plan. You got to figure out what you need to do to get your business in order. You know what I'm saying? You literally, I agree with that. You literally have to look at yourself as a business. How are you going to build that foundation for yourself so you can continue to build what you want to build for yourself, rather get yourself involved in something.
To look at myself as a business, you know, through most of my life, I looked at myself as an employee of somebody else.
Yes.
Right. And so now I'm like, okay, well, you told me to do this. I got to do it. You told me to do it. I can't have this day off. I can't have this day off. When I started looking at myself as my own business and that I had a contract with the person that I was working with, even though legally I was an employee, I started to look at myself as I have a contract with them, right? When I get my, when you're going in for your job and you get this whole work, the whole thing that has what your duties are and this and that, that's your contract. You're agreeing to do these tasks for this amount of money, right? That's the contract. And so I started to look at it that way. And when I started to look at it that way, things changed for me because now I started setting boundaries, right? It used to be I get a job and they say, well, can you work these extra hours, and these extra hours? And I'm quick to be like, yeah, let me do it because I want to impress them, right? When I started looking at myself as my own business, I started saying, no, I'm not going to do it. And I'm going to set that precedent early. So when they start asking me to do certain things, I'm like, no, I can't do it, right? Because then in my mind, I'm like, if I do that, then I can't do this over here, which could maybe make me more money. I can't do this, which is maybe taking away time from my kids and taking away time from my family, right? So I was looking at myself more as a business that had a contract with another business. right? And so my decision making became different on how I approached them, right? And so
Yes.
now they understood, and when I set that precedent from the beginning, that I'm not going to be working all these extra hours, or if I do, you're going to pay me what I'm worth if I work these extra hours, right? Once I set that, they get it, and they can't fire me for it, right? Because my contract says this is the job, these are the hours that I have to work. You know what I'm saying? So you can't get fired for it, and it just changed everything. And then that's how I really started to look and say, I don't want to be an employee though. Now I want to be an independent contractor, because as an employee, they can say you have to work at this office, you have to use this equipment, you have to use, this software and those type of things. As an independent contractor, when they hire me, I use my equipment and I do it on my time in my office if I want to. They can ask me if I can go to their office. Would you mind coming into the office for this meeting or to do this job or to work with this group or something like that? And most of the time I'm like, yeah, cool, I don't care. Right? But it's me having the ability to make that decision. Right? And so that's why I was like, okay, let me just become an independent contractor where I can dictate everything myself. You know what I mean? And that just opened up a world for me.
The way you explained that is that scenario, I think just basic life, that's how you should deal with your life, period. You think of yourself as an independent contractor. You were with your parents at one point, but now as you're building yourself up, you have to look at yourself like that. Like what are you gonna do to because everything you do is gonna affect your bottom line. So the decisions that you make, you cannot, you can't put yourself in the spot that's gonna screw you up. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Put you further back behind the eight ball. You know what I'm saying? So just to have a clean slate with that when you first start off, and to just be on that mindset that, like, I have my own business. Am I going to go to school to build equity in my life? You know what I'm saying? If I choose to work, am I going to put money aside for further on down the line? When I can make better conscious decisions. You know what I'm saying? That's what businesses do. They put money aside for later on. You know what I'm saying? They put equity in their workers for them to do work so they can build the business up. So yeah, they have to. My opinion, I'm quite sure you guys agree with the concept. You have to think about putting equity in yourself, and then that's how you get to the point where you can make decisions with other people, whatever, because what you can do, what you've been doing. So now when somebody else comes into the equation, you're better prepared to deal with things because you've made your business strong, pertaining to yourself.
I'll even add more to that, into saying that for anyone who's like close to becoming an adult, like anywhere between 17 and 24, do your best to study financial literacy as best as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you can get it from someone who is close to you, who has learned it themselves, or just go out there. You have everything at your disposal when it comes to Google, right? You have all these search engines. You can go and do your research. Everything is there for you. So for you not to really, learn how to become financially literate is sort of like the biggest thing for me. And that's what I've been teaching, like my nephew who's 19 and my niece who's 21. It's like, I'm teaching you since actually 16. I've been explaining to them how to be that, right? Like how to take 10% of your earned income and put that away, and also invest a certain amount of money depending on how much you make. Because really you need to make as much money in different areas. So you're not just focused on what I'm making on my regular day-to-day job. I have to have additional income coming in different other ways that you can do it, right? You can also do, like you said, Sim, you can do contracting in different areas where you're not taking up a bunch of your time. You're sort of picking and choosing what jobs you want to take on.
Yeah.
And that also helps. So it's just, figuring out ways to be financially literate is the biggest key, especially if I need to talk to a youth right now. I say, do your best to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. That financial literacy it's just so key, and what I find too is when young people do learn some financial literacy, like it's like a light bulb goes off in their head. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm staying away from that credit card. You know, I'm not trying to get this interest. Like, boom. And young people's minds are already imaginative. So when the financial literacy piece and they learn it, now their wheels are turning. Like, okay, now how can I use this to my advantage?
They doing it better than
You know
us.
what I
They
mean?
finding loopholes. You know what I mean?
Loopholes, all kinds of
And,
stuff. You know?
and I like the fact that this generation,
You got control. That's
they
what it
Yeah,
is.
Mhm.
they go get the knowledge. They go get the knowledge, but they share it. You know what I mean? They share
Yeah.
it with their friends.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So
Right.
That's true.
they pull their friends up with them.
yeah. And like,
Back, you know what I mean? The people that were doing it, that had the knowledge, knew the tricks from my generation, like that were in my age group, they weren't sharing that. You know what I mean?
right.
They were doing what they was doing and getting the hell out getting the hell out of town. You know, they might see them once a year,
Yeah,
but
Right.
they wasn't sharing knowledge. They
I
wasn't
mean,
showing how to go get it.
and in the United States specifically, I don't really know about anywhere else, but like credit is everything, right? So the more that you can build your credit, the more you have the flexibility in order to play with credit, right? And use banking as a measure of success where you can now take a loan but pay yourself back while using credit. You're not necessarily, and you're building your credit at the same time. So it's sort of like the way that banks work is like, they work on interest. So the more you're able to pay back whatever you owe, the more interest they get their payment, but also your credit score goes higher. So it's really a balance, right? It's like you never use more than 30% of your credit,
right.
right? Because if you use more than 30% of your credit, now you're in the bad part of the credit line, right? So those are certain key factors that no one teaches us as we're growing up, but we have to learn by making those mistakes. And so financial literacy comes to play when you know how to utilize banks, bank loans, and if you have your own, let's say, and this is another thing, sidebar is more like, being your own entrepreneurship, right? Like how do you own your own business? And what are the fruits of that labor? What are the pros and cons to owning your own business? And how you can, save and invest by using your own business and not having to put everything on your name, but you can put some stuff in your business. So those are certain keys that children between the age of 16 and 24 need to start learning if they haven't learned it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to help them grow, prosper, and then build generational wealth that they could pass along to their children.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Another thing too, man. It's just like I just a lot of people they like to um they like to you know just they don't tell the whole story. Like they say like we just explain different things, right? But some people will just put the kids out there and don't tell them nothing. You know what I'm saying? I just I
Mhm.
always look down on people like that. Like the real, what's going on. Why would you do that to them? Why would you tell them that? Why would you you know what's happening and whatever? Why would you tell them that? Well, I'll share another story too, because I know you're getting long winded, but my mom, I had got credit cards, so I had learned some things about credit, same thing about using this sparingly, trying to build my credit for later on down the line, because I had a plan what I wanted to do. So anyway, time passed, and I'm like, where's these credit cards, man? I'm like looking in the mail and stuff like that. So just one day, maybe like a month and change, I said, hey, mom, did any credit cards come in the house? And she looked at me, right? So, I just asked her. It wasn't like nasty enough. I say, hey, man, did you just see any mail or whatever? So anyway, maybe like later on in the day, she takes the some two envelopes and throws it at me like that, right? So I look at the envelopes and it's two credit card bills, fam. Two credit card bills. She took my credit cards and started and basically maxed out both credit cards on me.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So that a situation like that, now you done handicap me now. So now as soon as she gave me those bills, maybe like another couple weeks later, I started getting calls from
Yeah.
creditors and
Credit
stuff like
collectors,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So now look at this. Now my mom done put me in a hole, whatever. And on top of that, she's on that shit like, yo, you need to get out type of stuff.
Yeah.
So you see how you could throw your kids
You can.
into a hole like that? You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
because let me tell you, I've had cable in my name before I was
Mhm.
before I was
Now,
I've had telephone in my name. I've had an electric bill in my name all before I was like 15 years old.
Yeah.
and that is a thing that I've witnessed a lot. I didn't go through that. Like, again, I can't wait till dear mama. My mom, she put me on credit cards without my knowledge, building my credit without my knowledge. You know what I mean? But I've seen, and it's so disgusting. I've seen people, put bills in their kid's name or change, fraud and fraud credit cards with their kids' names, like really messing up their kids' lives before they kids even get a chance to do anything out there. You know what I mean? Like they don't even know they in a hole. The kid, you know what I mean? Because they mom is putting credit cards in their names, and you know what I mean. Like, that's messed up when you got hide your kid's social security number from they aunt, you know what I mean, or they uncle, because you know the type of things that they lengths they're willing to go to.
Yeah.
That's tough because it's the hardest thing to come back from in any kind of something that's gone
It's
into
tough.
delinquency. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Oh
'Cause
man,
at some point it's like they like you go as far as trying to garner someone's check. It's like, like especially when you talk about taxes. Like if you ain't paying your taxes, they come to get you. So it's like it's one of those things, you got to learn a lot about the system and how the system works,
yeah.
and to fall about, behind so far that, you it's like I couldn't imagine that happening to me. Like that would have been crazy. Um, you know, so I feel for you, Hero, because that's tough.
It deletes years off your life because like I said, I actually had a plan. I had a plan, whatever, but that it actually like maybe took away 5 years of my life right there because now I have this debt. Whatever I wanted to do with it, I couldn't do it anymore, and then now I had to get a job, to be able to pay whatever. I had to borrow stuff. Maybe I had to do some illegal shit too. You know what I'm saying? To take care of that. Plus my school, I was going to school too, so it kind of messed me up for like a big portion of my life there. So and then it also led to other bad decisions too, man. So you definitely like if you can, if you're able to, because like I said, we telling these stories and there's people out there going through that shit right now. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I feel for you, man. But if young people could get the message, man, like you really have to have a plan, figure out what you want to do, and then you just have to just go down the line there. Maybe college is not for you. Find somewhere, maybe pick up a trade. To start working right away. Put money to the side. You're talking about building businesses, maybe real estate or something like that. Whatever you want to do, find that path that feels good to you and figure it out. Like John said, and Sim too. Just get educated. In whatever you're trying to do. Google is right there. You can literally do anything on your phone for free. Figure things out and
Right.
decide a path and be in control. Be in control of where you want to go
Exactly.
rather than go through life, waiting for someone else to take the control away from you. And then now you're really put in trouble. You know what I'm saying?
You know what the biggest misnomer around going to college is that you can't go when you're older. It's like this: why rush to going to school when you don't quite understand what trajectory you want to go in, right? Like you don't have an idea of what you want to study or how to make that a, a, you know a gain more than a loss, right? Like you have to weigh your odds. Like you said, there are different trade schools where you can get paid. Starting salary could be 70 to 90,000 a year. Welding school, everyone needs a welder, right? Like there's certain things. Every building needs someone who can control the HVAC, right? Like there's certain trades that are like timeless, where the trade is always going to be needed. So you could always go to school for liberal arts later or for managing. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
that's something you can do when you already established, sort of a foundation for yourself,
You
right? And
could
so
you could do that when you could pay for it.
yeah, exactly. And that's the biggest misnomer. Is like you got to come out of high school and go directly to college, because now like if you don't understand how to get Bell grants or any other additional grants, depending on your circumstance or your race or whatever. Now, and writing grants ain't easy. You know what I mean? Like you need to
ain't.
spend some time, and they don't deliver right away. You know what I'm saying? So there are other means to it, but if you aren't getting a full scholarship ride, 9 times out of 10, you're going to either go to a community college because you can't, have the funds for that. And there's nothing wrong with community college. But what they say about community college, and I don't know this to be true because I went to a trade school, but I hear from a lot of people who are business entrepreneurs themselves, is community college or local colleges teach you how to become employees, right? When you go to the larger schools, the more, elite schools, they teach you how to become an entrepreneur, business owner, someone who can run a business. And so those are the differences. And so why not take your time with that decision? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Why not have a plan in advance of you making the decision to go to college, right? Like you said, you have the opportunity to pay when you have, build your foundation already. So,
Yeah. I know a guy. I grew up with him, right? So he went and became an electrician. So they were poor. His family was poor, man. But he ended up becoming an electrician. So I mean, while I'm going through my stuff, my mom stole my credit cards and all this other stuff. He became an apprentice. You know what I'm saying? Then he became a master electrician or whatever. So that before he was 25, he already owned like 2 houses already, and he was working on the third house, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say? So I mean, 'cause his family didn't set him back like my family did. His family, he was doing his thing, so they supported him. They were poor, you know what I'm saying? Poor and stuff. So, but he allowed him to set that foundation for himself because this is what he wanted to do. And then, like I said, by the time he was 25, he already had 2 houses, and he was working on the next one.
It's crazy.
You know what I'm saying? So, these are things that you can touch as a young person, but you just have to like Tony said, you got to have a plan. You know what I'm saying? You gotta everything that we said. You have to pick that whatever, and then just follow through with what you want to do. You know what I'm saying? And the sky's the limit. For whatever you want to do. You don't have to get the student loan. You don't have to do all these different things that you don't want to do. There's many different ways to do this stuff.
Right. One of the biggest keys, one of the biggest things that I learned when I got my master's degree. And it's crazy because it's something that I knew my entire life, right? And that most of us know. And so I paid all this money, to get a master's degree, and they, taught me something that I already know. But I guess taking all the classes, helped to drill it home too. But one of my professors just said, you want to be a business person, just hustle. That's it. Hustle. Everything else will come, but go out there and hustle, and you'll be successful. You know what I mean? And it was like, okay, like I knew that, but after learning everything else and then getting hit with that, I understood it better. Right?
Yeah.
Just
It's
hustle.
almost like he's saying you paying all this money. You just got hustled. You know what I mean? Because you paid all this money, and I just taught you something you already knew. You know what I mean? But now go out there and do it. You know what I mean?
Hustle. You know what I'm saying? Hustle. Like, because you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't got the determination, it don't matter.
Yeah.
It don't matter. You know what I'm saying?
It's applied knowledge, right?
Applied
That's
knowledge.
really what it comes down to.
That's what it comes down to. You got this knowledge now, go apply it and hustle, and don't stop till you get what you want. You know? And, it's, I mean, how many businessmen have you seen that didn't go to college? They just got into the business that they wanted to be in, and they learned it. You know what I mean? Figured it out, learned it, and then became successful.
It's also the leap of faith that most people are afraid of.
Yeah.
Right. It's the not knowing, it's sort of like, that's sort of the barrier once you get past. And this is one of the reasons why I say you can never go wrong with a trade. Right. So if you have a skill, you always have a skill for life that will bring in a certain amount of income.
Yeah.
At that point, then you could become your entrepreneur, right? Because now you can just drive that home. Even that skill set could be a part of what you're doing as a part of a business plan, right? So it's really just about applied knowledge. Really.
It is. And like you said,
and not fearing it, right? Like not fearing the unknown.
Not fearing the unknown. And that's, and that right there, not fearing the unknown, leaves so many people stuck in situations, right? Oh, I'm not gonna leave the hood because, you know, they're gonna say, you know, I'm always gonna represent my hood, blah blah blah, but really they're scared to
Mhm.
experience what else is out there. Can I survive in that environment? Right.
That's why.
So they're like, nah, let me stay here. I'm used to this. I'm cool. I'm used to this. If I go over there, I'm not used to that, and I don't know if I can make it. That fear.
That's why I stay at jobs so long. Like
Mm.
I like that's my biggest hurdle every time. Is like
Mhm.
I've been here. I'm comfortable. I know what to do. I know what not. You know what I mean? I know how to do it. Do I really want to go through this journey all over? You know what I mean? Like, and at the same time, it's my biggest regrets have been not taking certain leaps of faith. You know what I mean? Like not taking certain opportunities because I was too scared because I would have had to I would have had to do it, pick up and go, take that job. You know what I mean? Take that position. So I that's spot on. For at least for me.
Yeah.
But Tony, you know, to be honest with you, like these days, you could work a 9 to 5 and still start a business, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
literally in our fingertips these days because everything
Everything.
applied knowledge, like I'm saying, is you have the ability to research what you're interested in and have also the ability to pull 2 hours out of your day to commit to that project
That
or
part.
that idea.
Yep.
And it 9 times out of 10, an LLC is going to cost you probably 1,500 just to lock in on an LLC, right? Like just to get the paperwork done. You know, sometimes depending on what you're trying to do, it could cost you a little more. But for the most part, the very basic level stuff, you're going to spend you about 1,500. You know, so now you're stamping, you have approval, and you have the credentials to start working as a business, right? And e-commerce is the easiest way to get there,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not the brick and mortar spot because you want to get the e-commerce going before your brick and mortar, right? Whatever it may be, right? So always think it's really applied knowledge, man. It's really just do the
It really
research on
is.
what you're interested in, take a chance, pull the 2 hours out of your day, structure yourself like you've probably already structured yourself. So it's really just that.
Yeah. And like I always say, just start.
Yeah,
That's the biggest
that's
thing.
what I say all the time.
Just
You don't know
start.
until you start.
You know what I'm saying?
Got the
Like
leap
so
of
many,
faith.
like I hear so many people that, you know, oh yeah, I'm starting a business. I got to get my logo first. Let me get my website first. Let me get this first. Let me get that. And I'm like, I'm like, just say if you want to be a tattoo artist, don't say, yeah, I want to be a tattoo artist. I'm going to start a tattoo artist business. Just say, I'm a tattoo artist.
Yep.
I may not have tatted nobody yet, but I'm a tattoo artist, right? And put that in your mind, like this is what I am. You know what I'm saying? And you know, but like, just start whatever it is that you want to do. Just start doing it. If you want to make donuts, I don't care. Start making them in your kitchen on your stove. Start making it and sell it to somebody. You know what I'm saying? Because
Right.
you just gotta start. You know, and then the other stuff can come, but. You know, so many people just like procrastinate on that starting spot. Well, I can't start a donut shop because I don't have a logo. I don't have a name. You
Right.
know what? Right
Yeah.
now it's just called Simeon's Donuts. But you know, everybody
Yeah.
around the way knows it as Simeon's Donuts. You can come up with something else later, or maybe that sticks. Who knows? But just start doing it, and then everything else will blossom from there. You know what I mean?
And give out samples.
Yep.
Right.
I learned that works.
The biggest thing is like, you know, even when you like even at the even like, and I'm talking about like putting money into like starting a business with limited liability stuff, the taxes don't hit you. Like you don't have to pay taxes until you make a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's sort of something that most people don't understand. They're like, I ain't gonna do that because then the IRS gonna come after me. Not necessarily. Like you have to start making a certain amount of money before the government asks for their share, right? There's no share of nothing, right? If you don't make nothing,
Yeah.
you can't
Right.
give nothing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so much different things, man.
It's a lot that we got to chop out of this episode to put it out there.
I'm telling you.
We're going to have to cruise through this episode and chop it, put it out there. It's a lot.
As you know, to put this together, we're all Knicks fans, right? So, like, if you look at every telecast, every game around the country, you see Knicks fans all over the place. Those are people that took leaps of faith, man. They're all New Yorkers, right? You see them in North Carolina, you see them in Jersey, you see them in Philly, you see them in LA. You know what I'm saying? These are all New York City transplants, that took the leap of faith and found their way to another situation. You know what I'm saying? So, anything that you want to do on this earth, you can do it, man. If you want to buy a house, you can't afford to live it here. You're thinking about going down to North Carolina because it's cheaper and stuff like that. People do it every day. Why can't you do it? It's
I
all
know
about
people who travel on what's that metro that goes to the south, like Virginia.
Yeah,
they'll travel into New York just because they have a better lifestyle in Virginia. They'll travel 3 hours north.
They do that. Yeah,
I was like, yo, that's wild. But look, they do it.
Yeah. All right. Well,
this is good.
Good show. Good show. Definitely a good show, man. I don't know what we're gonna talk about next week, but I guess we'll talk about it in the group chat. And throughout the week, I'm gonna just chop this up and put it out.
Yeah, I wish I would have been from the beginning, man. But since I've been on, there's been a lot of things useful stuff, man.
So we're gonna chop it up and put it out there. Any last things we want to say before we get up out of here? Because I'm actually getting ready to go to the gym. I'm about to listen to this Nas song, then I'm going to the gym and shoot.
Nice.
Nah, I gotta make me something to eat. But good show, fellas, man. Next week on Wednesday, back to Wednesday.
Back to Wednesday. That way we don't conflict with.
Yeah, when's game? When's the Knicks game?
Knicks game is Saturday and Monday.
Saturday, Monday, and then game 3 is what? Thursday.
Thursday. Yep.
All right. So yeah, let's do it Wednesday.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good.
No doubt about it. Yeah. Appreciate you guys. What'd you say, John?
I said thanks for the invite.
Yeah, we appreciate you being here.
Yeah. Come back.
No doubt. Peace.
Of course, when I
Cash
can.
rules everything around me. C.R.E.A.M get
Yeah. Check this so fly shit out. Word up.
cash
Take
rules
you on a
everything
national
around me.
joint.
C.R.E.A.M get the money.
Here we go.
Dollar
Check
bill,
this shit.
yo.
Yeah. I grew up on the crime side, the New York Times side. Staying alive was no job. Had second hand.